Back in 1918, the people of New Orleans, Louisiana legitimately feared for their lives every time they went to sleep. This was the year the notorious serial killer dubbed the Axeman of New Orleans first began his killing spree that would be recounted and retold for over 100 years to come. Despite gripping one of America's largest cities in fear, the Axeman of New Orleans was never identified, and the cases of those he murdered remain unsolved. The Axeman's murder spree is believed to have begun in 1918, though some reports infer he was involved with earlier murders. However, the frequency of killings and attacks during 1918 and 1919 hit their apex, as it became increasingly obvious that someone was out for blood. The Axeman had a very particular way about him. He only attacked at night while his targets were sleeping, and only went after his victims with axes and blades, oftentimes their own that he would steal from their sheds or homes. It is believed the Axeman was solely responsible for attacks on 12 individuals, 6 of whom who had died. It is believed the Axeman of New Orleans' first victims were Catherine and Joseph Maggios, who were attacked the night of May 23, 1918. The murderer had entered their home, which they also operated out of as a barroom and grocery, and made his way to their bedroom. There he found the couple sleeping alongside each other. He cut their throats with a straight razor and bashed their heads in with an axe, potentially in order to conceal the real cause of death. He then fled the scene. It's believed Catherine died nearly immediately after suffering her cut, but Joseph survived briefly. He died minutes after being discovered by his brothers, who lived in the same house but did not hear the initial forced entry or the scuffle. Law enforcement that responded to the scene found the murderer's bloody clothing that he had apparently changed into a clean step before fleeing. Later on, the blade was found in the lawn of a neighboring property. As would be the case in all of the Axeman's murders, no valuables were taken, ruling out robbery as a potential motive. Just over a month later, on June 27, 1918, Louis Bressumers and his mistress Harriet Lowe were attacked in the early morning hours. The attack had occurred in the back of his grocery store. Ownership of a grocery was a common thread between himself and the previous victims, the Maggios. Bressumers was struck with a hatchet above his right temple, which resulted in a skull fracture. Lowe was hacked over the left ear and was found unconscious when police had arrived in the scene. The couple were covered in a pool of their own blood by John Zanka, the driver of a bakery wagon, who had come to supply the grocery on his route around 7 a.m. The axe, which had belonged to Bressumers himself, was later found in the bathroom. Both Louis and Harriet survived the initial attack. Harriet did eventually die multiple weeks later, after a failed surgery to repair her partially paralyzed face, which was a result of the attack. Slightly over 1 month later, once again, the Axeman of New Orleans had struck a new victim. Anna Schneider was attacked in the early evening of August 5, 1918. She was 8 months pregnant at the time when she awoke to find a dark figure standing over her and was bashed in the face repeatedly. Hours went by after her attack before her husband Ed Schneider had returned home late from work and had rushed her to the hospital. Miraculously, Anna not only survived her attack, but she successfully gave birth to a healthy baby girl only 2 days after the incident. Upon further investigation, it's believed the assailant used a nearby lamp to bash Anna repeatedly. Although the weapon had changed, investigators speculated that the attack was related to the previous Axeman incidents. Only 5 days later, on August 10th, 80-year-old Joseph Romano was found by his nieces after they heard a commotion coming from his room. Upon checking on him, they found that their uncle had sustained a serious blow to the head, which resulted in 2 open cuts. The attacker was fleeing the scene, and the girls reported him as a dark-skinned, heavy-set man who wore a dark suit and had a slouched hat. Romano survived his initial assault but ultimately died 2 days later due to severe head trauma. Authorities found a bloody axe in the backyard and discovered that the home's door had been meticulously chiseled away so that the assailant could enter. After the previous 2 attacks happened in such quick succession, everybody in New Orleans began to take notice. There was a widespread uneasiness amongst the residents that their homes could be broken into, and that they may become the next victims of this deranged murderer. As a result of widespread panic, police made several public statements regarding the matter, and reassured residents that they were upping their surveillance and assigning more police to the investigation daily. Things seemed to quiet down for a while. Perhaps the police intervention was truly working. However, after 7 months, the Axeman had made his return. On March 10th, 1919, Charles and Rosie were attacked in their home. After screams were heard ringing out from the residents, a local grocer rushed across the street to investigate. There he found the family bloodied and bruised from their scuffle with the Axeman. Although Rosie and Charles survived, the Axeman tragically took the life of their 2-year-old daughter, Mary. As it had happened during nearly all of the other incidents, nothing was stolen and a bloodied axe was left behind. With the city once again abuzz and fearful of the Axeman's reappearance, local newspapers received and reported on a letter from a man claiming to be the Axeman himself, only a few days after his most recent attack. It read as follows: Hell, March 13th, 1919. Esteemed mortal, they have never caught me and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you New Orleans and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains of he whom I have spent below to keep me company. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I'm a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but His Satanic Majesty. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there's any need of such a warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly, you Orleans think of me as the most horrible murderer, which I am, but I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, for I am in close relationship with the Angel of Death. Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I've just mentioned. If everybody has a jazz band going, well then, so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that if some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, they will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or realm of fantasy. The Axeman. The Tuesday mentioned in the letter was March 19th, 1919. As a result of the reporting in word of mouth, it's recounted that everywhere you went in New Orleans that night, you would hear jazz music playing loud from nearly every home. Whether it was a result of his demands being met or otherwise, the Axeman didn't attack anyone that night. The Axeman of New Orleans would go on to attack 3 more victims in similar fashion during his final spree in the later half of 1919. Despite having a total of 12 victims, 6 of whom survived their encounters, the Axeman's identity was never discovered. There were several theories brought forward over the years, but nothing is stuck. His motivations also remain a mystery. Some conclude that it was racially motivated, as the majority of the Axeman's victims were Italian Americans. Some believe it was sexually motivated and believe he only attacked male victims when they got in the way of him reaching his female target. Despite these theories, we may never know the truth. What do you think? What were the Axeman's true intentions? Or was he just a deranged psychopath looking for a bit of notoriety, as his letter may suggest? I'd love to hear your comments down below. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to let me know if you have any other topics that you would like me to cover. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here next week with another video.